Let's do this. The Cult of Hockey podcast by the faithful and for the faithful. I'm David Staples of the Edmonton Journal, and I'm here today with Bruce McCurdy. You're a little low on the screen there, Bruce.
Oh,
Can see
sorry.
couldn't see that you're the bottom of that beard.
I need to get.
There we go.
There we go.
I'm probably too high in the screen. Uh, Bruce, another fairly difficult loss for the Edmonton Oilers, 4-1 to the Capitals of Washington.
The Bolts.
Excuse me, the Bolts of Tampa Bay. I'm off.
The losses are running together, aren't they?
They are starting to. Bruce, the Tampa Bay had 17 grade A shots. The Oilers had 13. But in the subset of 5 alarm shots, it was 11-3 for the Bolts. 11-3. So the 4 goals is kind of expected goals in this one. And I guess the Oilers might have expected to get a couple, 2 or 3. So the score flattered Tampa a bit, but not so much. It was a fairly uneven game and highlighted by some very painful moments, which we'll get into. What's your good thing, Bruce? 2 good things, 2 bad things, 2 numbers. What is your good thing?
Yeah, my good thing is the goal. Short list of good things from this game. The Oilers, they had a fairly bright start to the game, kind of like they did in Washington the other night.
Yeah.
And they got an early power play again, and just as they did last game, Draisaitl, what's the word for the Draisaitl anymore? Like, he just pounds one in game after game, and he did it again. And he took him 16 seconds on the power play, David. And they whipped the puck around, and Bouchard lobbed it up the boards to Draisaitl. He passed it to McDavid behind the net and took off, and McDavid gave it right back to him on the give and go, and Draisaitl pounded a shot past Vasilevsky into the far corner. Easy peasy. Going to be easy tonight, right? 1-0 Edmonton. And that was it for power plays for Edmonton in this game. 16 seconds. They're good.
Draisaitl, that was funny at the end when he got that penalty, because man, he gets slashed.
First,
then he gets
McDavid gets hacked by Chernak, and then Draisaitl got hacked twice, and then he finally hacked back, and of course, then the hand goes up. Didn't matter at that point, but it was salt in the wound when the Oilers never got any power plays at all after the first little bit, and then Tampa runs out their first power play unit for 1 minute and 40 seconds, trying to run up the score to 5-1. John Cooper, you were in my good graces there briefly for a while, but tonight you can take a hike.
Great screen by Zach Hyman on the goal as well. Like he really got in front of the goalie, and Vasilevsky lost sight of the shooter for just a brief second, which was enough for Draisaitl to. He might have scored anyway, but Hyman that certainly helped. And the pass, like everything was perfect about that goal. The pass from McDavid, the shot from Draisaitl, quick as it got to his stick, and then the great screen from Hyman. It was a real high moment in the game, and the Oilers did look good, Bruce. My good thing is it's hard to know what's wrong with the Oilers right now. Like, personally, I think it's a mental issue related to both the Four Nations kind of hangover, but more than that, the length of the season is hitting them again, and I think they had a sense of accomplishment, mission accomplished, when they got to first place in the division, and they kind of thought, we did it. And then now they're looking forward to the playoffs, but the playoffs are still like 30 games away at that point. And they have become a sieve on defense, and not just the goalies. The whole defensive team is a sieve. They're one big sieve, the Edmonton Oilers, on defense. They are atrocious defensively right now. And that's what has fallen apart in their game. They're getting as many grade A shots as ever, but they are a sieve on defense, and I'll get to some specific numbers about that. Anyway, I just think that there's all kinds of fatigue mental, and probably some physical fatigue, although they just had 2 weeks off. And I just think kind of not epitomizing the breakdown, but just the grind of the season was the play where Nurse goes into the corner. He's going for a hit. The guy falls down, and Nurse
Oh,
crashes, absolutely crashes into the boards. It looks like he separated his shoulder. Fortunately, he got up and he played the rest of the game, and he looked no worse for wear. He's moving really well out there, and he's playing. He really has had a great bounce back season. But just the physical toll that play just made me think about the ongoing aches and pains of
yeah.
the NHL. That play could be with him the rest of the season.
Yep.
Looked like he wasn't hurt, but man, that's the kind of play where someone wrenches something, and then like for a month or 2 months
Yeah.
or the rest of the year, they're
It-
they're playing with it, and it never goes away. And we've seen that with Nurse in previous seasons. I think he's been remarkably healthy. I just hope he stays that way. And so I do see this slump that they're in as load management from the Edmonton
mm,
Oilers. They talk about this in the NBA. NBA players actually take games off now. I don't watch the NBA, so I don't know exactly what's going on, but I hear that the star players and such take games off now and then and to rest up. And I just think this is um, mentally the Oilers are taking games off, the entire team, and this is they're falling. They can't do it. They're not that good to
oh,
do
they're
that,
definitely
and
not that good.
it's catching up to them. And until they get a huge shot of fear and adrenaline, which they're starting to get to, I think they're going to keep
Maybe.
playing this way. They're going to keep. They're not going to. I think they will get it together. Because we've seen this team play solid defensive hockey for
Mhm.
long stretches. So I think they are going to get out of this, and they are going to play shutdown defensive hockey again. But it's going to take every player just to start to have a little bit of fear in them for that to happen, and that it's not there yet, evidently.
Yeah, Tampa gave them a good lesson in how to play team defense tonight with all their layered coverages, and I didn't notice a lot of odd man rushes for Edmonton, and they're, no sort of somebody left the gate open, in the
No,
back fence, and which happened quite a few times going the other way. And they just they're not with it right now. David, in addition to the aches and pains, I wonder about illness. I know there was one rippling through the locker room before the break, and I just kind of wonder how many of these guys are down a couple of courts because we're just not seeing anything close to the best for quite a few players. And they're manning up and trying to play through it would be one viewpoint, but it's just not. They don't have the reserves or the what have you to do anything more than sort of rote hockey playing without really much extra for inspiration or energy bursts or what have you because they're it just seems like if someone was to tell you, yeah, the whole team's got the flu, would you believe it? I sure would.
yeah, they, they something, and
It's
then
possible.
there's the
I
pressure of
don't
the trade
know.
deadline. Pressure of the trade deadline might be making a few of them kind of tight, nervous, like
Yeah.
maybe Stuart Skinner and net, maybe a few of the defensemen, maybe a few of the forwards, and who knows? But they really are they are not alert on defense. They are not sharp at all, and it's leading to this losing streak, 4-game losing streak. Bruce, but even before then, this last 10 games has been just terrible on defense. Bruce, what's your bad thing?
Yeah, I'm going to go with the game losing goal against, as I call the opposite of game winning goal. This was the one that put Tampa ahead 2-1 in the opening seconds of the second period. Last game, Oilers had the early 1-0 lead, gave it up, and then gave up the go ahead goal in the last minute of the first. This game, they held it off until the first minute of the second, but they weren't ready for the start of that period. And I saw that goal as two horrendous mistakes and Ekholm not helping, but not necessarily really his fault. But it was uh, a wraparound goal by the splendid Brandon Hagel, who's a very fine and fast player for Tampa. And the play the guts of the play where he got kind of behind the defense on the right hand side and cut in towards the net. And Evan Bouchard, who may also have the flu, so you know, who knows? But he sure looked like it there because he was extremely casual to the point of lackadaisical to the outer edges of lollygagging in the defensive zone. He did not challenge Hagel's charge towards the near post, uh, which he was the man back. And the play, it seemed like, was for him to sort of come over and cut off that lane a bit. He didn't. Hagel took the puck hard towards the near post. Stu Skinner bit on that. And then Hagel proceeded to duck around behind the net. And with Bouchard still watching, he tucked it around the post and outquicked both Skinner and Bouchard to the far side post and tucked it in. And to me, it was, coverage errors by both Skinner and Bouchard that allowed the shot to be taken and tucked in. You'd like to think your goalie will get across on a wraparound and snuff it at the other post. That didn't happen. You'd like to think your defenseman would get around and snuff it at the other post. That didn't happen either. And to me, it was just poor hockey on both guys' parts, and not the kind of goal you can allow on a night you're facing one of the best in the biz at the other end of the sheet, Andrei Vasilevsky. The Oilers never did get that goal back, and the game proceeded directly downhill from that moment.
I agree, Bouchard. You normally expect the defenseman to get back there and get his stick on that puck before it's
in
wrapped.
There somewhere. Yeah.
And you also expect your goalie to get over there and get his skate against the post so it doesn't go in. One of the other or both. This is why wraparound shots are overrated in terms of scoring plays, because usually 85% of the time, 90% of the time, even though they're shots from like 1 inch away, right on the goal line, essentially, they get snuffed. And there's a reason for that. There's a reason, and they're not like 20-25% shots.
This
Skinner,
one was 100% shot.
Skinner has been criticized, Bruce, for being slow, pushing side to side. And that's how that looked. The interesting thing is, we've been debating how to score this one, and I think it's actually as Skinner deflected in. I think that shot was going across the crease, wouldn't have gone in if Skinner hadn't touched it, but it hit his skate as he's coming over with his skate and bounces in off his skate into the net. So it's like deflected ADI, which is for us against deflected in our coding. So I see that as like a deflected in. You're right. Like, it's a grade A because it's a wide open net, but Skinner gets his skate there.
They both missed their assignment as far as I'm concerned. And if the goalie does his assignment right, he stuffs it at the post, but the same goes for the D-man, and they both blew it. Skinner bit on the near side post when Hagel kind of fainted there, and he kind of jammed up against the post, and then he had to reverse his momentum and come across, and he just was not as fast as the fleet Tampa Bay forward.
Tough one for Skinner, because otherwise he had a pretty good night. Like, he made a lot of really good saves and was sharp. The other goals were not his, they were really tough plays, I think. And but in the end, Bruce, they only scored one goal. Like, even if let's say Skinner let in 3 instead of 4 on all these shots, all these grade A shots that we've 17 grade A shots. If he had let in 3, they still would have lost. If he let in 2, they still would have lost. So it's just not. The Oilers are not. Tonight they weren't clicking on offense, although Vasilevsky had a fairly good game in the nets as well. My bad thing, Bruce, is just there's a couple plays by forwards that I want to highlight. Kasperi Kapanen on the first goal against, it's just a neutral zone turnover. He's had a few of them, hasn't he, where they've ended up in the back of the net. I'm guessing there's probably about 3 this year, if you look closely, just really bad ones where he turns the puck over. These things happen to NHL players, but they can't happen really to a fourth line guy. His job has got to be get the puck across the red line, and then you make sure you get it deep in the other end, either by skating it in yourself dumping it in or making a very safe pass. None of those things happened, and there's a turnover, and
No,
the guy takes the puck right to the net and scores. So it was Kulak was a little high on the play as well, but he's counting on Kapanen to get the job done. Kapanen, there's a whole group of forwards, Bruce, on the Oilers who are kind of playing at the same level in terms of their two-way play. I could go down the list, but Skinner, Perry, Janmark, Connor Brown, Kapanen. Kapanen is the least experienced of them and does the least
he's
on
got
special
500
teams.
games.
Yeah, I guess he does have some experience now that you mention it. But he's just
Well, they
I
got
think
all kinds of experience.
I don't think we're going to see him after the trade deadline. That's my prediction, and that's a harsh thing to say, perhaps, and not welcome news if Kapanen happens to listen to podcasts, which he shouldn't be doing. But I just don't see him sticking. He's not physical enough. He's not offensive enough. He's not defensively sound enough, and he's not like a penalty killer. So
Yeah, it shows little flashes of all those things. They sometimes use them at the third unit penalty kill, and
yeah, no,
a
then you're
lot of
right.
the time he looks sound defensively, but he's prone to these blunders. And there was one in the Chicago game where he gave up on a back check in the last 5 seconds of a period that cost a tying goal that I was not impressed with, and still remember that one well. This one was, he just kind of fumbled the puck off his stick. It wasn't even like he got checked or anything. He was coming out with it, and the puck slipped off his stick, and he couldn't recover. In the meantime, Kulak is like 30 feet in front of him, expecting a pass, I guess. And when Tampa just jumped on the puck there right at center, Kulak tried to come back, and he actually got himself back in the play, but never in position. And the guy just kind of walked right around him, and then had time to make it deke across the front of the net and roof it on the other side. It was Kapanen. I think he's now top of the list for press box duty in
Oh,
Florida
yeah.
on Thursday night.
Yes. Hopefully Jeff Skinner will get in. He got benched after a really good game and a good run of games, actually, and maybe you can talk about that in a bit. But anyway, the other bad one was Nugent Hopkins on the fourth goal. It's not likely the Oilers are coming back at this point. Like, honestly, it's into the third period, and they're not getting much done on the attack. Darnell Nurse pinches up ice. It was a bad decision by Nardell. Like, even in the context of being down 2 goals and having to force things, it's the kind of play he made regularly before this year for a couple of years. Bad decisions where you don't pinch on a 50-50 play. If you're going to pinch, you got to think I'm going to win it 80-90% of the time. Like, I got a really good chance of winning it, because you can't count forwards to cover for you. You can't count on the cover for you. They're not going to do it sufficiently, at least on the Oilers. And so he pinches in, and he's not even close to making the play. And there's a pass up ice, and Tampa breaks in. It's, I think, 2-on-2 at that point. Nugent Hopkins is back on the back check, but he gets outskated up the ice. He just gets beat up the ice by Nick Paul, I think it is, who scores the goal. And that's not acceptable from Ryan Nugent Hopkins. He's a veteran player. He's supposed to be a sound defensive player.
Somehow, yeah.
He can't let that happen. Like, Paul's a bigger man. He can't let Paul get body position on him or it's over. But that's what he let happen, because he did not hustle. Now, there was a little bit where he and Ekholm kind of crossed paths slightly that might have slowed Nuge down. But nonetheless, he's got to get in his head. I will win position, defensive position, get myself between that attacker and the net. And he lost that battle of will with Paul. And again, this is just part of the industrial disease that the Oilers have right now. They are defensive malaise, Bruce, and that play typified it. That was a really weak. I noted Savoy last game for the same thing, and Nuge was, he's a veteran. They've all got it. They've all got to bear down on the back check, and they're just not doing it.
Yeah, he couldn't get inside position on Paul. So then his plan B has got to be attack his stick and try and take his stick out from behind, but just try and lift his stick so that he can't
Good
finish the
luck.
play. But he was not able to do that either.
Well,
So,
Paul's got what, 3 or 4 inches on him and
oh yeah,
30, 40
yeah,
pounds. So it's just
yeah,
not going to
he's a
happen.
good
He
player.
he's got to be on the right
Yeah,
side of him. So
that was a guy I really wanted when I knew Ottawa was going to trade him. Of course, Tampa got him. But
you and Bob Stauffer, I guess, because Bob mentioned it a
probably,
billion
yeah,
times.
yeah. I guess he
Yeah.
did. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I always liked him in Ottawa.
Good player.
Liked him on Team Canada in 21, and him, Brown, and Mangiapane were the killer line for Canada.
Bruce, what's your number?
Yeah, I'm going to follow your lead there, David. And I just got to bring up the right page again. And talk about Jeff Skinner, who got press box for this game for the sixth time
Yeah.
in recent weeks. Jeff Skinner, since January 1st, which is a pretty reasonable milestone, 2 months ago now, he's played 15 games. He's averaged 11 and a half minutes a night, and he's not getting big minutes and not much time in the top six. 5 goals, 4 assists, 9 points plus five. At 5-on-5, he scored 5 goals himself, 3 primary assists for 8 points. He's got 1.95 goals per 60, nearly 2 goals per 60, easily number one on the clubs since New Year's. And he's been on the ice for 3.5 goals per 60 minutes by the Oilers, 1.56 goals for the other team, which, again, this is in about 2.5 hours. So translate that into real goals: 9 for the Oilers, 4 for the other guys. And I mean, let's spell it out. Skinner himself scored 5 goals. The whole other team scored 4. Why are you benching that guy? I don't understand it, Chris Knobloch. I just do not get it.
They don't trust him for some reason. No, 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 this
Look,
isn't true, Bruce. Just wait,
this
give me a
is two
second.
months
They
of
they
great
don't
results.
trust him for a reason. He has the highest rate of major mistakes on grade A shots of any Oilers winger. Now that's and it's been consistent throughout the year being the highest rate now. And he hasn't really picked up on that. His offense has picked up a bit. Um, so he is getting better shooting luck, but there are still defensive problems in his game. And I think perhaps it's like he made a bad first impression. Now it's all the coach can see.
Yeah,
Because I don't think he's very similar now on defense to Nugent Hopkins, Connor Brown, Kapanen. They all have a similar rate. Skinner, Corey Perry, they all have a high rate. Podkolzin, and all have a high rate of mistakes. All of these wingers are not playing. Janmark has had collapsed. His defensive game's collapsed.
mm-hmm.
They're just none of them are getting the job done defensively, except for Hyman and Arvidsson, who are still actually pretty solid, generally speaking, on defense, at least or comparatively to the rest of them. So I think that's it. That the coach has both his opinions formed, and now he's got a little tunnel vision on the player. I agree he should be playing, and it must be galling that Matt Savoy gets called up, like, and this raw rookie, and
Immediately
he's
get
been
second
going
line.
good, and Savoy gets. No, I like Savoy. I think he should
Yeah,
get a
I do
chance. He's
too.
an interesting player, but man, I just like, are they trying to have him to are they trying to convince him to waive his no movement clause at the trade deadline? Is it that tough? It might be that kind of hardball with the player to get him to agree to a trade, because he might want to get some ice time at the end of the year
No
and put
doubt.
up some points so he can get another, a decent NHL contract, which is going to be harder. I think he'll get another chance in another city after this, but um, maybe the Oilers are playing hardball with him here, Bruce.
Well, 3.1 points per 60 is an elite rate for any stretch of
Oh
games.
my goodness, it's
Like he's
incredible.
just behind Draisaitl, who's at 3.16, and he's at 3.11, and then there's a big gap to the next guy. This is since January 1st. And of course, he sat out those 6 games, and he didn't get a huge ton of ice time. but he's made the most of the ice time he's got, and yet they repeatedly are benching the guy, and they seem to be sort of impervious to what he's actually been doing out there. And like I dug into his numbers today, and I was shocked at how good they were. And how can you bench a guy who's got more goals by himself than the other team has scored against you during his time? And in this lengthy stretch. It just doesn't make sense to me. I like Chris Knobloch as a coach, but this decision, and especially when the obvious choice I thought was to bench, I said this last podcast, bench Victor Arvidsson for his dumb penalty last game. It really cost Oilers, the go-ahead goal that it wasn't the actual game-losing goal against, because the Oilers got a couple in garbage time, but they fell behind on that goal and they never caught up after that. And yet there
Yeah.
he is, promoted to the McDavid line. Skinner is upstairs watching, eating popcorn again. And if I were him, if if I
I
were
like
his
Arvidsson,
if I
Bruce. I
were his
wouldn't.
agent, I
Yeah.
would be phoning uh, uh, Oilers GM Stan Bowman in the morning at like 8 o'clock. Because what the hell? Anyway.
Well, that's what Stan wants. Because then Stan has the answer. Well, he says, the answer to this
Well,
solution. You know the solution, my friend.
then
That's
why'd you
exactly
sign the guy, Oilers? If you're not, and when he does
Jackson.
do what you signed him for, and you're just
Jeff,
still benching him.
in his rotisserie league moment, Jeff Jackson signed him, and I applauded. So I can't say anything. I like Arvidsson's play. I would not bench Arvidsson, but I think Perry, Brown, you can make an argument for any of these players. You can make an argument for not Nugent Hopkins after his last game, but you could bench RNH,
Uh-huh.
based on his play this year at even strength.
Okay. Well, here's
Um,
Arvidsson tonight, David. He played 14:32 -2 with 0 shots on net, and while he was on the ice, the Oilers had 6 shots and gave up 12, and of course the 2 goals. So that's playing with McDavid.
well, he wasn't at
And
fault on any of the goals. And overall,
he
he's
was
a solid two-way player. He creates a lot of grade A shots. He limits them in his own end. I see him as a good player. I see him as a
seemed as
smart
a good
player.
player tonight. I didn't.
Well, I don't think he was particularly good tonight, but I wouldn't bench him. There'd be other guys I'd be benching, be like Kapanen,
Six
top of the
times
list.
over. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Bruce,
yeah, I just don't
there's no,
understand this. I mean, they signed both the guys, one right after the other, to play top six, and it's like one guy immediately played his way into the doghouse. No matter how well he plays, he can't play his way out of it. And I just don't get it. So
well,
that's
I
my
think it's to do with their defensive play. And I think there is a difference that Arvidsson's a
Mhm.
significantly better defensive player than Skinner, hence the coach trusts them. And there was also something with just comments I've heard from the reporters around the team about Skinner not giving good service to the stars, right? Like not passing the puck quickly enough. I think there's been those kinds of hints, in Skinner's direction. I don't know if that's fair or not. I don't notice him hogging the puck or anything. I think he's actually a good teammate to play with offensively. He's a very smart offensive hockey player. And again, I would like to see him play. We are in agreement on that. But I do see something about the coaches seeing in this player, I think. So, Bruce, in the last 10 games, the Oilers have somehow won four and lost six, four in a row here they've lost. So,
Yeah.
in the first 49 games of the year, Bruce, the Oilers were giving up about 11 and a half to 12 grade A shots a game, which was really good. That's really good for the Oilers, and they were creating about 16. They're still creating about 16 grade A shots a game. So their offensive play, I don't know if they're goal scoring, but their offensive chances has not fallen off in the last 10 games. They're still creating a good number of chances, grade A shots. But Bruce, they've gone from giving up 12 grade A shots a game, which should translate into about 3 goals against, to 16 a game. 16 grade A shots a game. That's 4 goals, expected goals against per
Pretty
game
much, yeah.
in the last 10 games. That is terrible. That is really, really terrible. And I know that the Oilers keep their own stats on grade A shots. I suspect that their findings are quite similar, and the coaches are aware of this. Um, So they're about even actually with the other team in terms of grade A shots, but on the most dangerous of shots, the 5 alarm shots, the Oilers are giving up they're getting 7 a game and giving up 8 per game. So they're getting on the most dangerous shots. That's a significant advantage. 1 5 alarm shot a game
Sure, it's
over
a
10
third of a
games.
goal or thereabouts.
Yeah. So um, so some of the problem on the Oilers, they're about even in terms of grade A shots. Some of the problem in the last 10 games has been goaltending. The goaltending on the Oilers is subpar. They're giving up roughly one bad goal a game. Um, and that'll get you. That'll wipe you out, especially if you're not getting much puck luck yourself at the other end. And so that's happening. But this defensive slump, it is it is bad. They have got to get out of it. And again, I think they will, but they still have to do it. And it takes incredible commitment um, to do that. It takes a decision that every shift you are not going to get outworked. You're going to be on the right side of your man. You're going to go the extra mile to make the check, to get off the ice before you're exhausted, to make the smart play in the offensive zone so you don't give up the odd man rush. All of these things that come down to commitment and discipline and decision making, that just firm decision making, that you're going to be an excellent defensive player. They have not been made in the last 10 games. They have
Yeah.
fallen by the wayside, and this team is starting to stink because of
Oh,
it.
yeah. Yeah, no, they've essentially stunk in all 3 games of this road trip. Like 3 blowout losses, it was pretty hard to draw any other conclusion.
Yeah.
And there was moments tonight. I thought this game was a slightly bit better than the Washington game, um, but they just weren't consistent with it. There'd be a good shift here, a good moment there, and then some other breakdown would happen, and another great chance would happen. Tampa would be shooting the puck into traffic, and Tampa probably missed the net 5 times on great chances that could have gone in because they got kind of a freebie shot from reasonable range. The coverage wasn't there. And Skinner either made some saves, and there was some, like I say, that just missed the net. We're thinking that's going to go in if it does hit the net, and it didn't. And it's you know
And of
they
course, the
got
game started off with Bouchard making a turnover, right, for a
20
5 alarm shot.
seconds.
Oh,
Yeah,
jeez.
he clearly didn't get the memo.
Yeah, he's getting the memo he's getting it loud and clear, I'm sure. But man, that he has got the yips, Bruce. He is not a
No,
confident hockey player. He's not sharp. He's not playing well. He's not playing happy and free. And he's also not playing fiercely determined. Like it's like he's got to get desperate. Like it's time for
mhm,
him to get desperate and to
yeah,
think I'm wasting
no,
I'm losing millions of dollars for one
hmm
thing by
absolutely.
this, and I'm going to go. Like I'm going to do whatever it takes not to
Yeah,
have a grade A shot next game when I'm on the ice. Whatever it takes. I will eat a puck. I'll take a stick in the face. I'll give
yeah,
up offensive rushes, but I will not have a grade A shot against me next game. That's the mindset Bouchard has got to have, and the rest of the team. And when they get that mindset, the Oilers are a really
they'll be
good team, and
fine.
they've had that mindset last year. They can get it
Yeah,
again, but they gotta find it.
yeah. Well, Bush did have 5 hits in this game from a very generous Tampa scorer. He
Really?
had Edmonton with 30 hits and Tampa with 25, which
I don't
I'm
believe
pretty
that
pretty sure 30 would be a career high for the season high. Pardon me,
for
for
the
the
Oilers.
Oilers.
Yeah.
Yeah, if they've had 30 before, it's a lonely occurrence. I just think it's a rogue scorekeeper. I saw some hits in this game, but I didn't think I saw 30. Bush was also credited slash debited with 5 giveaways, which is a stat I do believe. He had another one in the third period where he lost the puck right in front of his own net, and the guy went around him, and I think he tried to deke and missed the net. That somehow it didn't wind up. We didn't record it as a chance because I
Mm-hmm.
didn't get a shot out of it. But the
Yeah.
turnover was just, oh, hide your eyes. Uh, um, it's just happening with frequency. And some of these guys, I mean, a lot of the criticism, like the fans ripping these guys on the regular, some of that probably gets through to these guys, and they're human beings. And you get told you suck enough time, maybe you're going to start sucking, you know.
Yeah, I don't even know. Yeah, I think some players like playing in a Canadian market is a thing. It is real and it's hard on some players. I just think the players know when they make a mistake. They don't have to be told. They're
Oh,
not, they know, and it hurts. And
no,
the competition is fierce. It's fast and furious, and sometimes it's just getting the better of you. And it must be hard night in, night out when the competition is getting the better of you.
no.
And you have to go back to basics, I think, about stripping the game down and think, okay, I'm a defenseman. No, that means I protect my goalie, number one. Okay, I'm going to do everything I can. I'm going to start being a little more cautious in my offensive reads, for instance. Now, maybe that's someone say that's the wrong. Like you have to have more of a like just play the game attitude and make plays. But I do think no, you do just have to really focus on defensive discipline at this point. This entire team does, and make it a commitment. Like we are gonna do everything we can to limit grade A shots in the next few games. That's our purpose. The goals will come. That's what I think with these players. The goals will
I like to
come.
think.
And if they get back to defensive fundamentals, which they have done in the past, as I keep saying, they'll start winning again.
Well, they're now up to, David, 8 games in a row since they last beat anybody in regulation. Right, they got the 2 overtime wins in St. Louis and Chicago on back-to-back nights. Neither one of those was a Rembrandt, especially the one in Chicago. And then they came home and lost to Colorado 5-4 in a very sloppy game. And now, of course, this road trip. And the really strange thing is this is a team that all year long has been out shooting the other teams, right? Most games, every 10 game segment that I've done since Knobloch took over, the Oilers have a substantial advantage in shots per game, 3 to 5, typically 5 or so. This year, I think they were up pushing 6 shots per game, more than the other team, right up to the break. Uh, in the Colorado game, they got outshot by 4. Then in the Philly game by 14, in the Washington game by 9, and tonight by 13. So in other words, they've been outshot 4 games in a row by an average of 10 per game, 40 shot deficit in those 4 games that they've lost. And they sure aren't making up for it by having better shooting and save percentages than the other team. So it's a losing formula.
Bruce, next game is
Thursday night
Thursday
at
against
Sunrise, Florida,
Florida.
against the
Great.
Panthers. Happy memories, David. Maybe
Happy
that's the
memories.
thing. Maybe that's the thing that'll light a fire under their butts and say, "We remember the last game here, and we don't like it, and we want to go in and crush these." Fill in your noun here.
That'll be
I,
good.
I won't say it on a family podcast.
Bruce, thanks for talking tonight.
Yeah, thanks for listening, everyone.
And in the meantime, and in between times, this has been another edition of the Cult of Hockey podcast.